Welcome in, folks. Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. Brendan Glasheen joined by Sean Zerillo today on this Monday morning. We come to you September 9th, coming down the wire here in this baseball season. 9-game slate, so it is an off day for many teams around the league. There's a makeup game today with the Reds and the Braves, and that actually happens to be a game that encapsulates a lot of what we do normally on this podcast. Normally we do the Fade the Public segment, Underdog segment, and we always start with best bets. Sean, you've identified this game as a game that you want to target yourself. 85% of the bets, 91% of the cash coming in on Atlanta. So it's our Fade the Public game. It's our underdog spot. Well, let's start with this. You're going to have the pick, but why did this game jump off the page for you?
Yeah, my biggest projected edge for today's slate, but I give the Reds a big starting pitching advantage with Nick Martinez going against Charlie Morton. Martinez is a guy I think who's going to opt out of his contract this offseason. He got a 2-year, $25 million deal from the Reds this offseason after pitching mostly out of the bullpen for the Padres last year. He's a guy who went over to Korea, came back after having an earlier career in the major leagues, but he's showing career best skills this season and having a career best year, 2.2 wins above replacement. As I said, he got a 2-year, $25 million contract last offseason. Seth Lugo got 3 years, $45 million from the Royals with a player option for his third year. I think Martinez opts out and gets something pretty comparable to what Lugo got last year. He's going to go from 225 to probably getting 345 with a player option attached on the back end. Now, he is in his mid-30s, so I doubt a team wants to lock him up for too long, but he has elite command, and that should provide him with a pretty high floor throughout the rest of his career because he doesn't rely on stuff. He's a below-average strikeout rate guy, but he has elite command, and he limits hard contact, which I think is probably the most important skill in his entire body of work. 96th percentile in hard hit rate this season, 92nd in average exit velocity. He was 95th and 98th in terms of percentile rankings by those hard hit stats last year. So able to limit hard contact. But this year, the walk rate is what's down drastically, 3.6%. He was previously around 9%, which is much closer to the major league average. Major league average around 10%. So Martinez has gone from having above average command to having amongst the best command of all pitchers in baseball. He has a 3% walk rate or 3.6%. The only two guys ahead of him are the same guys who led MLB in walk rate last year, George Kirby and Zach Eflin. So walk rate is very sticky. Command is very sticky. It tends to carry over from one year to the next. And considering the lack of stuff he has, the strikeout rate being below average, I think that is a sign that he can continue to pitch extremely well, even into his late 30s, having elite command and limiting the hard contact. There's really nothing different in his, pitch profile this season. The velocity is relatively the same. The pitch mix is relatively the same compared to prior seasons. He's just pounding the zone more. The zone rate is at a career high, 52.5%. It doesn't rank, among the highest zone rates in baseball. He's still like 40th amongst 100 plus qualified pitchers. But he went from barely throwing the ball in the zone, being amongst the league bottom of pitchers throwing the ball in the zone, to now an above average, rate of pitches in the strike zone. And it's clearly working for him because, as I said, one of the best walk rates in baseball, but also a 3.55 expected ERA, a 3.55 bot ERA. The location plus rating has gone up from 102 to 109 year over year. So Martinez looks like a phenomenal pitcher. Charlie Morton, on the other end, his indicators are about a run worse, 4.6 expected ERA, 4.4 body ERA. As I said, Martinez closer to 3.5 by both of those measurements. Morton's pitch modeling metrics have also tumbled this season. Now, he's been kind of in a 3-year decline, as he approaches late 30s. Now he's 40 years old. The home run rate started to slip 2 years ago. The expected indicators started to slip a little bit more last year, but this year you see the continued slippage of those underlying indicators and also the drop off in both velocity and stuff plus ratings, because his stuff plus figure is down 11 points year over year from 106 to 95. His velocity across all of his pitches is down between 0.8 and 1.1 miles an hour. Every single pitch, fastball, sinker, curveball, changeup, every single pitch. And as a result, the barrels have increased, the hard hit rate has increased. So Morton, for his career, has allowed 0.86 home runs per 9 innings, which is tremendous. Anything under 1 is great. I think the league average is around 1.1. Past 3 years, he's at 1.19 home runs per 9 innings. So over the past 3 years, he's allowing home runs at a 38% clip higher than he was over the first 15 years or whatever it was of his career. The home run rate has climbed drastically. And, that correlates with the barrel rate. And the hard hit rates have increased as well. But he just has a curveball at this point. There's nothing else in his arsenal that is even a league average offering. Even last season, the changeup was still a league average pitch. The curveball has gone from a 149 stuff plus rating in 2021 down to 122 this season. The expected WOBA on the pitch has risen every single year for the past 5 years and has gone from 221 up to 260. So it's still a very good pitch, but it's no longer like the best curveball in baseball, which you can get away with one stupid elite pitch. You can't really get away with one above average pitch and then everything else being below average. Mm-hmm. So big starting pitching advantage. I think I've quantified that. Here's the other points on this game. The offenses are relatively the same, 18th and 20th against right-handed pitching over the past 30 days or since in the second half. Atlanta has the better bullpen in terms of results. They're top 2 by expected FIP, expected ERA. Reds closer to 11th, 15th. But the Reds have the better pitch modeling metrics. The Reds have a 387 body ERA, Atlanta at 4.4. The Reds have a 104 pitching plus rating, Atlanta at 100, again, in the second half. So some points that the bullpens are pretty comparable. The offense has been very comparable, but the Reds have a clear starting pitching advantage. Their starter is a full run better by expected indicators. Now, the one qualifier is the spot, because it is a little tough. You mentioned this is a makeup game, I think from June. The Reds were in New York yesterday. They had to travel overnight to Atlanta. They're there for one day, and then they're traveling again overnight to St. Louis tonight. So that's a little bit of a tricky spot, getting the double travel day within 24 hours. They're basically only in Atlanta to play this game, and then they're leaving town again. Atlanta was home yesterday, didn't have to travel, etc. So the spot certainly favors the Braves, but I think everything else, my projection on this game, I made Atlanta, or I made the Reds plus 122 for the full game, plus 108 for the first 5 innings. So the projection, where the market odds are, where the money's coming in, and then certainly, the starting pitching advantage with Martinez, all points to Cincinnati. So would take the Reds down to about plus 115 for the first 5 innings, and then plus 112 or better for the full game. Those will be my price targets.
All right. The rescheduled game I never thought we needed after that, after the breakdown from Sean. There you go. Cincinnati and Atlanta, 640. A rescheduled game. Nick Martinez. I mean, I think that's the market now for like his kind. I think the Lugo comp's pretty good.
They were teammates last year too, which is kind of odd. Right. The Padres wouldn't mind having either or both of them at this point, just to round out that starting staff for the playoffs. But yeah, they reallocated their money. They shifted things, and they probably wouldn't have been able to get Dylan Cease had they not jettisoned those two guys. So upgraded from Lugo and Martinez into Cease, but Martinez has been phenomenal, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a nice deal this offseason. As I said, even in his late 30s, between the command and the hard hit suppression, I feel like somebody will give him a nice 2-3 year deal.
Okay, you've got 2 more game looks, and then you want to do a quick minute on division futures, whatnot. Guardians, White Sox over 8.5, and then you like the Toronto Blue Jays actually hosting the Mets. It's a pick 'em price with Blackburn and Bassett on the mound. Bassett on the mound for Toronto. You give us both your angles on those.
Yeah, Blackburn coming off the IL, he took a line drive off of the finger, so I'm not super concerned about his health coming back, but at the same time, he could struggle with this command. The Mets are in the thick of the playoff race. I don't know how that finger feels. Is the finger 100%? Is it 85%? And any difference in, effectiveness or grip strength from that one finger could impact, his command on a specific day. But he hasn't even been particularly good this season. Blackburn is a 4.55 expected ERA, 4.43 bot ERA. Chris Bassett has the better expected ERA and better body ERA, 4.37, 4.24. He also has the higher strikeout minus walk rate, 14% versus 12%. And the Jays offense has quietly been extremely good in the second half. They're 4th in the second half, 114 WRC plus. They are 2nd in the past 30 days at 117. They're ahead of the Mets over both spans. The Mets are 11th, both in the second half and over the past 30 days. And it's not just Guerrero at 238 WRC plus in the second half, but Will Wagner, 152. Spencer Hurwitz, 122. Addison Barger, 115. Dalton Varsho, 111. And George Springer, who looked like a corpse in the second half, 102 WRC plus in the second half. So The Jays offense, they've 6 guys who have been above average hitters in the second half. Vlad has obviously been one of the best hitters, if not the best hitter in baseball over that span. But yeah, I give the Jays an offensive advantage. I give them the starting pitching edge. Their bullpen is the one concern. But even that, they don't rank as a bottom 10 bullpen. They're closer to league average in the second half. And the Mets have a slight bullpen edge. But I think the Jays are the better defensive team, the better offensive late, and the slightly better starting pitcher. So I made the Jays minus 112, would bet them up to about minus 104. And then the Guardians and White Sox over 8.5. I projected this total closer to 9.5. We're waiting on a White Sox starting pitcher confirmation. Preliminarily, we do have a Nick Nastrini who has been awful this season. Nastrini, 8 starts, a 7.79 ERA, 6.7 expected ERA, a 6 bot ERA. But in 32 and a third innings, he has 32 walks, incredible, 31 hits, 33 runs, just 24 strikeouts. So he's given up more walks, more runs, and more hits than he has strikeouts this season. Honestly impressive to do. I don't know if I've ever seen that in a sample of greater than 25 innings. Generally, because if you're giving up that many hits, walks, and runs in 20 plus innings, they're like, we can't give you the ball again. But yeah, I mean, astounding numbers for Nastrini thus far. But Joey Cantillo, who's going to start for the Guardians, is confirmed. 7.71 ERA, 6.12 expected ERA, 5.06 bot ERA, 97 stuff plus, 93 pitching plus. I should mention in the Nastrini, he has league average stuff, 100 stuff plus. The command, though, is awful. The command is in the location plus is in the 80s, 86 pitch plus. So both of these guys well below major league average in terms of pitch modeling metrics, 100 being league average. Just to reiterate, Cantillo 93, Nastrini 86. Both of them have an ERA north of 7. And even the Guardians bullpen, I think that is lending it to this over projection for me as well. The Guardians bullpen, which has this reputation as being amongst the best in baseball, did rank amongst the best in baseball in the first half. In the second half, maybe they're getting a little fatigued. 13th in expected FIP, 12th in strikeout minus walk rate, 17th in bot ERA. The White Sox, too, have also improved from about 30th or 28th to 24th, 22nd in some of those indicators, strikeout minus walk rate, expected FIP. But by pitch modeling, they're still 30th in the second half, 4.98 bot ERA, 96 pitching plus. So I think the Guardians bullpen has taken a hit in the second half, and I don't think the White Sox have improved their bullpen, even though the results would say that they have. They still rank amongst the worst teams by pitch modeling metrics. So yeah, Guardians, White Sox over 8.5. You could bet that up to 9 at minus 110, projected that at 9.6. And then the Toronto Blue Jays up to minus 104. And as I said before, with the Reds, my best bets for today, first 5 2 out plus 115, and then full game 2 out plus 112.
Okay, very good. And is there a wind factor? Is there a weather ballpark factor for Chicago Cleveland? Because I'm kind of stunned that total is not a tick higher. I know we're into September and it's not 95 degrees out and humid.
Yeah, I think there's just been a lot of resistance at the 8.5. Probably from sharp money. As I said, I made it 9.5. I did upgrade the park factor for today relative to a normal day. It's 78 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left field. So if anything, it's over weather. I don't really know why this total didn't push to 9 yet. I would imagine there have been some big bets that came in on the under 8.5 that show if they push it to 9, like they're going to get substantial bets, because 9 is obviously key number, 8.5 is not. But at the same time, maybe, there could be a setup, being placed by big money to try to get it to not, like, usually what you see is before limits open up, the big bets come in on the over 8.5 at minus 120, but they really want it to get to 9 so they can bet the under 9. They're betting the 8.5 to move the market, but really just duping the market so they can place bigger bets on the under 9. I'm actually surprised that that's not what happened, because I don't think it has ever touched 9 at any point. At every book, they've just moved the juice up on the 8.5 to minus 125. I even saw minus 128. So these books seem very hesitant to push this total to 9, but projecting it at 9.5, not seeing a reason why I should make it lower. And also not having, nobody has umpire information as of right now. Typically umpire information is going to come out, 3 hours before the start of the game. So nobody has umpire information yet either, which that would normally be the one thing where I'm like, maybe I'm missing, the umpire angle or something, an umpire adjustment. Nobody would have that information as of right now. So yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't touched 9 yet. And it does make me a little nervous, but have to bet the over considering where I have it.
Okay, very good. Let's do a quick futures divisions minute. What's your latest thoughts, Sean? Up to date now, and take it wherever you'd like.
Yeah, so we talked on Friday about the Yankees and Orioles. The Yankees were a half game behind the Orioles heading into the weekend. They were plus 110 to win the AL East at the time, plus even money, at worst, minus 110 at worst. I said take plus money on them at that point. They're now 70% to win the AL East after gaining a game over the weekend. I mean, it's shocking how much the odds adjusted, and I was surprised to see that the projections thought that was accurate, because Dakota now has the Yankees at 70%. They're between 60 to 64% everywhere else from Fangraphs, ATC, the Bat X. But if you average those four projections out, you get to minus 177. And their best available odds are about minus 160, consensus closer to minus 180. So if you wanted to bet the Yankees at minus 160 right now, could not stop you, because there is projected value on them, especially if you look at that Pacoda projection, which would have them closer to minus 240. But even the average of those four projections, you still get a justifiable edge on them. That said, I don't really want to lay minus 170 on the Yankees at this point. What we're going to do is wait until September 24th to 26th, because that's when the Major League Baseball playoffs start. And you may say, Sean, the Major League Baseball playoffs don't start until October. And I would tell you that the Yankees host the Orioles from September 24th to 26th, and the Braves host the Mets from September 24th to 26th. And those are going to end up being de facto playoff series. The Yankees versus Orioles for the AL East, the Mets versus Braves for the potential final NL wildcard spot. I really think those two series are going to be ultra determinative for who ends up getting these spots. Now, they're 15 days away. A lot could still happen between now and then, but I don't really see much movement from these teams over their schedules in the next few weeks. So, yeah, the Yankees-Orioles series, I think, is going to be super crucial on September 24th to 26th. If the Yankees, lose a game today and the Orioles pick one up, over the next couple days, consider jumping on the Yankees again at plus money. If they get back to plus money, I think the projection value is going to stay there until that head-to-head series that they have. So just keep an eye on Baltimore and New York. If the Yankees get to plus money again, I would like them probably again. I like them where they are currently. I just don't want to lay juice on it. And I think that gap, there's a potential it could close before that 3-game set they have 2 weeks from today, or 15 days from today. The Kansas City Royals, the AL Central. The Guardians are about to have a 3-game set against the White Sox. The Royals are about to travel to New York to play the Yankees. So, yes, there's technically value on the Royals. If you go by, I believe, ATC projections right now, or the Bat X, one of them had the Royals at 20%. You can get the Royals at plus 450 to plus 500 to win the AL Central. I would wait, though. I would wait a few days, because the likelihood that the Guardians add onto their 2.5-game division lead while the Royals are playing the White Sox, while the Royals are playing the Yankees, the Guardians playing the White Sox, there's a likelihood that that league grows, more often than not in the next 3 days. I would wait, because the Guardians' schedule after that is miserable, and the Royals' schedule after that lightens up significantly. So I think you're going to get the peak price on Kansas City to win the AL Central 3 days from now or 4 days from now, whenever those two series conclude. But before Friday, as of Thursday night, you should be able to find peak value on the Royals if you want to time things, if you want to hedge out on our Guardians position as well. NL wildcard, we'll also discuss AL West here. We'll wrap up with the two teams I still like to win the World Series. It's no surprise. I've discussed them in recent weeks, giving out their futures. But the NL wildcard. So 3 spots, right? So the percentage chance that teams can make the NL wildcard should add up to 300%. 100% for each of the 3 spots. The Padres that are about 91%. The Diamondbacks are at 84%. The Braves are at 73%. So 987. And then the Mets are at 50%. That combined percentage, 298%. So every other team, the Cardinals,
Giants.
Yeah, the Giants, 2%
Cubs.
combined chance to make the playoffs, right? Padres, Braves, Mets, Mets, Diamondbacks, 298% combined of the 300% to make the wild card spot. So it's amongst these 4 teams, more likely than not. The Mets, though, have the 3rd toughest remaining schedule. They play Toronto, as I said. They play 2 series against the Phillies. They play Atlanta. They play Milwaukee. And they play the very frisky Washington Nationals, who have brought up their team for next year and look like a lot of fun. The Padres have the easiest schedule of those 4 teams. That's why they're at 91%. They also have a slight lead. The Diamondbacks are at 84%. As I said, I think this is between the Mets and the Braves for the final spot, and I think it comes down to that series on September 24th to 26th, and who wins that. It will be in Atlanta. But that is kind of how I, rank out those teams, and it's sort of, obviously it goes by their divisional position, but also they are sort of ranked in order of schedule difficulty the rest of the way. The Padres have the easiest schedule, the Mets have the most difficult schedule, and that is also where they fall in terms of projected percentages and standings. So worth, considering that just for purposes like that Mets-Braves series, September 24th, 26th. If you like the Mets to make the playoffs, maybe just wait to bet them in that series, because getting even money right now, laying minus 110 right now on a team that is literally 50% like on the nose to make the playoffs, would not recommend that. But the Padres, I still like, as a World Series contender, as a wild card contender. They've gotten Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, Fernando Tatis back in recent weeks. It was unclear if Darvish was going to come back at all. He was on administrative leave or, some sort of personal leave for a situation he was dealing with. It wasn't all injury related. He had an injury, but it was a personal reason why he was gone. Well, he's back in the fold now. So I think the Padres are in prime position for the playoffs. They strike out less often than any team in the National League. Offensively, getting Tatis back certainly boosts their ceiling offensively. Fangraphs has them at 8.3 right now, 8.3% right now to win the World Series. That is plus 1104 implied. I would want 15-1 or better. Would be fine taking that. I would take 14-1 or better on the Padres to win the World Series. I would take 7-1 or better on their NL pennant odds. And then just to flip back to the AL West, the Astros have a 4.5 game lead over the Mariners. I think they still have 3 games head-to-head against one another, but Houston is like 95 to 98% to make the playoffs and win that division. Fangraphs has them at 11.2% to win the World Series. That is plus 792 implied. I took 10-1 a few weeks ago. I would still bet them down to about 9-1 to win the World Series. Second lowest strikeout rate in the American League, aside from the Kansas City Royals. And as we always discuss, the Royals, a much higher strikeout rate on the road than at home, and they will not have home field advantage in the playoffs. By the way, still a chance the Astros could close down on the Royals, could close down on the Guardians for the number 2 seed. And if those teams end up faltering in the final couple weeks, they'll have a few games to make up. So I doubt they get there, but I do like them more than the rest of the teams in the American League field. And ultimately settled on the 2 teams with what I would project for the lowest strikeout rates in the playoffs in either league, which would be Houston and San Diego. We've discussed it throughout the year, but that is the one stat. If I had to choose one stat that correlates to success in the playoffs, not striking out offensively is probably the key number. And both of those teams excel in that area. The Astros just got Tyler Tucker back as well. So, seeing him back in the lineup healthy well before the playoffs certainly upgrades their chances too. It's not like he's coming back just in time for the playoffs, and we don't know what he's going to be. At least he has a few weeks to get himself back in form.
And they go head to head actually. Monday the 16th through the 18th.
Yeah, World Series preview for me. And I've been taking pretty much every $5, $10 free bet, odds boost, whatever from all the books that offer them through football weekend. And I've been parlaying the Padres and the Astros to make the World Series together at about 30-1. So if you want something to do, if you don't know what to do with your $5 free bets, if they're going to expire, a little parlay on the Padres and Astros, pennant winners respectively at about 30-1.
Okay, very good. That's a good little outlook for the rest of the season from Sean. We return for more Payoff Pitch. I can't remember. Are we doing a show tomorrow? I'm all confused after football.
I believe, yeah. I think we're still on the regular schedule through tomorrow. I'll be here with Tanner McGrath on Friday's episode, because now our Monday and Friday recordings will be back on Monday and Friday mornings. But yeah, stay tuned throughout the rest of the regular season. And then in the playoffs, we should be going back to a daily schedule. So we'll have daily previews for you in audio format throughout the postseason.
Yeah, Monday through Friday at the very least for that particular format. We're back to doing mornings. Yes, that's right. The old format was Monday, Tuesday, Friday. It's a whole thing. We're not doing it the night before anymore because we got a lot of crap going on at night now. All right, Sean Zerillo, find him in the Action Network app at Zerillo. His analysis, his write-ups for today's slate, the picks as well. And we'll be back at it. Sean, myself, and Tanner McGrath coming your way Tuesday, the 10th. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch. We are Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. Best of luck, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.